So you've come a long way over the years with all the Monster Cat stuff. So what I want to know is what makes you want to work in music and what drives you?
Well, I think it's something that's very intrinsic for me. It's something that I feel like I just have to do it. It's my biggest passion, and even if I didn't make any money at all or anything, I would still do what I do, just because it makes me happy and it makes me feel fulfilled. It's a way to express myself, and it's an outlet for me to, for emotions and experiences and things like that. What drives me, just to make music in general.
Yeah.
Um, I guess it's just my way of contributing something to the world, and I generally hope that I can connect with people through music, and I hope that it's a positive experience for them when someone listens to a song that I've written. And I just hope that someone can connect with it or relate to it, or it can inspire them or move them in some way, because, when I feel that, that's when I feel most alive, when I have a song that I just can't stop listening to and it's on repeat on my iPod. I hope that I can do that for other people. It's like a little soundtrack to life. It just makes things a little brighter and more interesting.
I know exactly what you mean.
Mhm.
Yeah, so how did you find yourself getting involved with Monster Cat?
So a couple years ago, I first put up some of my acoustic music on SoundCloud, and then um, when EDM was getting big, I got the attention of a couple of EDM producers that were here in Denver, Colorado. And so people that I have known from high school or college, even so, it was really easy to kind of get started, at least just with experimenting with EDM. And I released a couple of collaborations with some local producers here and put them up on my SoundCloud. And then I think that the person from Monster Cat who first heard my music was Two Thirds.
Right.
And he reached out to me, said that he liked my songwriting and my voice. And so he sent me the instrumental, which is now Waking Dreams. And that was my first release on Monster Cat. And then it just kind of kept going from there, because I kept working with some other producers on the label. And I still am, so.
Earlier on you were mentioning the songs that you end up listening to on repeat. And yeah, actually that ties in with this question. So what are your favorite song lyrics and why? Yeah,
Song lyrics.
It's a tough one.
Could it be just by an artist, or does it have to be a certain song?
It could be an artist, yeah. I know what that's, yeah.
I would say, it's Imogen Heap or Radiohead, the way that they write their lyrics, because it's abstract in a way, but it still grabs you. It still pulls you in. It's not, well, Radiohead is a little bit out there sometimes, but I like that mix between abstract and kind of relatable. That's kind of what I try to do. So it's interesting, but still, like you can follow along. And I just feel like the concepts that Imogen Heap uses and Radiohead uses a lot are just very profound and thought-provoking and deep.
It's sort of like, I think those two artists are, the big thing about them is that they're not afraid to sort of branch out.
Yeah, they're not afraid to just kind of put themselves out there just to experiment.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool.
So, yeah, I suppose the next question is to do with your recent releases. So you released Epiphany with Glimpse.
Uh-huh.
And Evolution with Mr. Fiji Ouija. Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
Just checking. So I noticed there weren't really any lyrics in the song. So, I mean, there were vocal samples, and I was just wondering, did you move to a larger role on the production side of things with those tracks?
No, in those ones, it was really where the producer just took pieces of vocal samples of mine and kind of used them as an instrument. In those two in particular, I didn't have a hand in the production.
All right.
So, yeah, those were kind of like I didn't actually even expect those those two to be released. They were more on the producers doing Glimpse and Mr. Fiji Ouija. So yeah, but I'm working right now on about more than 10 new collaborations, and they're all vocally driven and all pieces that I'm going to have a big part in writing, and they'll have full vocal pieces to the songs.
Yeah, that's awesome because I mean, it's. I think that's sort of what people love to hear. I was actually curious though. Do you find it more enjoyable working in production or in vocals?
I like working with vocals more. I do a little bit of production. I can produce like acoustic tracks and things like that. But really, what's always something that I've done is write songs and sing. Production is not something I've always done, and it's not something that I'm quite as interested in being completely knowledgeable about. You know, when it comes to the technical aspects, I like working with producers who just know exactly what they're doing so that our forces can combine and we can make a good track. So I don't have to worry about the technical aspects and they don't have to worry about the singing and the songwriting. So I think that works out well.
Yeah, I've always thought that the greatest sort of thing in music is the combination of everything. So not just electronic music and not just vocals, but both.
Definitely.
So another thing on our show is that we like to try and give advice to other music producers, people who are sort of branching out. And I sort of think you've got a unique aspect, a unique view on that, in that you're not an electronic music producer like we usually have. You come from a more acoustic background. So I was curious about when recording vocals for electronic music, what sort of changes do you have to make to the dry vocals compared to the vocal mixing and acoustic tracks?
Well, what I do for the electronic tracks is I always give the producer a completely dry vocal. I don't put any compression, reverb. I just make sure that it's at a good volume level, basically, and I get just my raw, dry voice, because every producer has their own way, you know, of treating a vocal, and it depends on, you know, how it's going to work in the track that they're making. Obviously, if I'm producing an acoustic track of my own, I'll just put compression, reverb, EQ it a little bit. But I don't like to do too much to the voice. I think that it, you know, kind of stands alone. I mean, I'm a big fan of reverb. I like a lot of reverb. But I like the producer to kind of decide what they want to do with it. And I mean, I'll help with the mixing. They'll send me like their first mix down, and you know, I'll see if I want to hear more reverb or if I want to hear less or something like that. But I think it's best to just give them completely dry, raw vocals.
Yeah, I don't know a vocalist who isn't a fan of reverb.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I've done PA, and every single vocalist always just said, "Can I have more reverb?" And yeah, so I mean, this is sort of a personal opinion of mine, is that I think lyrics can make a song great. And like, I mean, it could take a good song and just turn it around. So what I was wondering is, what would you say are good lyrics? Like, what makes good lyrics?
Lyrics, it's really tricky. I think for me personally, lyrics are the hardest part. I could write melodies all day long and not write a lyric at all for a whole day. I think that it just has to feel right. I think that it's tricky because in a song that really works, the melody and the lyrics are kind of married. Like they kind of just, it just fits perfectly. And it's like 50-50. Like
Yeah.
without the lyrics, the melody wouldn't be as good. And without the melody, the lyric, the word standing alone wouldn't be as powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you sort of have to have a strong sort of stance from both. Otherwise, like you can hear when one is lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think it just depends, on what works for the song.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, the next question really is more another sort of producery one. What is your synthesizer of choice?
Synthesizer. I actually really like Absinthe and FM8, although I don't know too much about VSTs. But I do have Ableton, and those two VSTs seem to be the ones that I use a lot because they have lots of pretty pads and kind of ambient stuff, like kind of weird experimental stuff. So I like that.
Yeah, no, I've used both of those, and yeah, I could only begin to get my head around them. So well done. Have you ever? Have you ever?
Complicated.
Pardon?
It is quite complicated.
Oh yeah. It's like too complicated for me right now. I never really tried. So yeah, for songwriters, because I mean, there's a few electronic music producers coming out around now that actually write songs as well, write lyrics. And I was just wondering, do you have any tips for songwriters about writing lyrics?
Like there's a lot. Let me think. To be particular, does that just come to like first writing a song initially, or just anything?
Well, I suppose it's like finding your muse. Do you have any sort of techniques that work for you to find something that draws out the meaning and message in the song?
Well, I definitely think that it's, it will be the most authentic when you write from your personal experience.
Yeah.
If you're writing from somewhere real, I think that definitely helps. But you can also do little tricks. You can think of, you can even make up a story of a character, but then you personalize it a little bit to yourself. So it doesn't have to completely reflect reality. But I think that if you at least use a bit of that realistic aspect to it, that it will help just make it lyrics more honest. Because I mean, what I think, when songs really work, I think it's when they're real and they're honest, and that's when people can relate to them.
I have a bit of a more serious and less electronic music related question. It's really quite serious. Do you think that music sort of has a duty of sorts, a bit like what you were talking about earlier on when you were talking about how you want to give something to the world with your music? Would you say musicians sort of have a slight duty to sort of give the world their messages and their sound?
I think so. I mean, I think that you want to just focus on being yourself, and there will be people out there. There is an audience for you out there. The question is, how do you reach that that group of people? But yeah, I mean, I think that if you're doing this, especially if you're going for it as a career, I don't know really how else you would be completely successful in it, if it was, well, if your goal is to help others and to connect with others, I think that'll just help you succeed, if you're trying to do it as a career. If it's just a hobby and you're just kind of, you're not too invested in it, or it's just something you're not, too serious about, I don't know if you quite have the same duty. I guess it just depends on what your goals are overall. I would say if you're trying to make a difference in the industry, or you really want your voice to be heard, then yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that as you've got a sort of a voice, really. When you sing, or even when you make sound, you have a voice, and people like to hear that they're not alone when they hear that.
Yeah.
So I've got like a bunch of random questions now that don't really have a topic.
Okay.
Now the first one is from a friend of mine who said something to me, and I just decided I've got to ask this. So I have it from a verified source that Denver is quite Denvery. Would you agree that Denver is quite Denvery?
Denvery. I've never heard that word.
Neither had I.
What is Denvery?
I don't know. He told me if I'd been to Denver, I would know. So yeah.
Yeah. Colorado is it's a pretty unique place, I would say. I haven't been around the world, but I've been around most of the United States. And I've been over to England as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I was there 3 years ago. I went to London, and I went up to Edinburgh. I went over to Ireland. I went to Paris. It was kind of a touristy trip.
Yeah, that's I've been to London. That was it.
Yeah.
So you've seen more of England than I have in a way.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, and another random question is: if you were to choose the next trend in the music industry, what would you want to see or hear all over?
Well, what I want to do with my next work, like my next solo album, and what I imagine myself doing for years to come, is kind of combining acoustic and electronic music together. And I know that's done a lot already.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool to see more electronic acts that incorporate live singing, or acoustic guitar, or electric guitar, or piano. I think it would be cool to just bring back more of the human element into the electronic music realm.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's always my favorite type of music that uses both, because I just think the combination is just amazing.
Well, I think what you were saying about honesty is that, acoustic music has a sort of honesty that other types of music don't always reach. And it's very sort of raw. Definitely.
Almost kind of vulnerable.
Yeah. And I definitely agree that, I was at Global Gathering last year, and a few of the musicians I spoke to, they said that they saw the industry going to more of a songwriting aspect right now. And yeah, I'm so glad to see artists like yourself. And have you heard of the Eden Project?
Yes, I have. I've worked with him before, actually.
I think Martin, he told me that he's a huge fan. I'm not like I'm too all over the place to really follow an artist. And I think the Eden Project and Crywolf.
And Crywolf is from England, right?
I don't think so, actually. He talks about his upbringing with a Native American friend, so I don't really know. Don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's awesome to see artists bringing in a more human element into electronic music, because that's really what makes music great, is that sort of rawness.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, as you know, like we do like to interview all sorts of interesting artists, and you've probably been in contact with more artists than I have. So I would like to ask, who do you think we should interview next?
Have you interviewed Draper?
Draper? No, I haven't.
We released a song in January. It's called Pressure. We released it on Monster Cat.
Yeah, we heard that.
Yeah, he's a really, really great producer, and we're working on another tune together as well right now. But I would say him. or let's see. I know quite a few producers in England. Have you interviewed much of the Monster Cat producers?
I haven't actually. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard of Monster Cat, I didn't like it. I think it may have had to do with the fans. It seemed to be a very young audience, and
Definitely they are.
As I've grown into it, I've sort of seen amazing producers coming out of there, and I think
they're growing a lot. So it's pretty cool.
I'm very impressed. Yeah. So any sort of must talk to Monster Cat producers?
Well, definitely Draper. I would say definitely Rogue.
Oh yeah, Rogue.
2/3. Tut Tut Child, Drop Tech. Let me think. Another producer you might want to talk to. I don't think he's released on Monster Cat before. But his name is Elliot Berger.
Oh, Elliot Berger. Oh yeah. I wasn't gonna ask this or like mention it. I entered in the Diamond Sky remix competition a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
I didn't win, obviously. But
I listened to every single remix, so I'm sure that I heard yours. There were like 200 or 300 though, so
yeah,
I don't remember them.
I wouldn't remember them. So, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, my remix was pretty bad. So no worries there. I'll just let it fade away into history. So yeah, I think I've got to sort of follow up on those. I think we actually we contacted Elliot Berger a while back. I think he was busy at the time, so we couldn't get an interview sorted. But yeah, there's amazing artists out there, and the reason I'm asking is because I actually want to know because the artists know who the good artists are, and so yeah, it's always good to sort of hear what you think.
Well, another one that comes to mind, he's actually from Colorado as well. Have you heard of Evoke?
Evoke?
Yeah.
The name rings a bell. I think I've seen it.
He is a producer, songwriter, singer. So he writes his own vocals over his songs. But we've been working together a lot. We have a 3-track collaborative EP coming out on May 1st. And we wrote all the songs together, and we were able to sit in the studio and make it from scratch together. So if you want to talk to a producer who does more of the songwriting, he'd be a good person to talk to, because not only does he know about the songwriting, but he knows about all the technical production aspects as well. So that would be interesting.
That sounds interesting. I love like those sort of producers, or I suppose you can't really say producers in that sense, those sort of musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So now about some questions about the future, and I think I know the answer to this one. Do you? I'm pretty sure you've got a goal in your career. So, what is it you want to reach?
Well, I would like to be able to tour. Definitely, I want to do more live performance. I'd like to release solo albums that are that acoustic and electronic combination, with the live performance going with that. And I also just want to keep collaborating as much as I can, because I really enjoy it, and it allows me to work with so many different styles, and it allows me to just grow so much as an artist. And so, just to put it simply, just to keep going, just to keep making music and doing as much as I can to put it out there. And eventually I'll have other things, like merchandise and other things to help the income. But for now, I'm just, trying to move into the next phase of getting a new solo album going. And we'll just see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal, because it's sort of like you want to get your music out there more than just, I suppose, reaching the online audience is great, but they don't always yeah, the world sort of tends to sometimes not notice as much.
Yeah, and it's always just more real to go and do a live performance, and it's definitely, you know, if you want to do it as a job, you got to do that. You have to. I mean, it's really hard to make a living just from sales and streams, you know, into these industries. So that's definitely a big piece of it.
Speaking of which, a quick little sidebar. Have you heard of Patreon?
I have, yes.
Because that always struck me as a really cool sort of monetization type thing. You know, getting money directly from the fans.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do along with like the YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I've only got 2 more questions. So this one's sort of more of a opinion based, really. Is there anything that you think is extraordinary that we will be seeing from you in the near future?
Well, I would say that the thing that will stand out the most is my new solo album. It's been a long time coming. I've released 2 solo albums previously, but they've been pulled from distribution just because, you know, they were a long time ago and the production quality wasn't as good. And so this is something that's, you know, I've been writing for it for years and years. And I think after all this time I've spent so far working in the industry, I've kind of found my style, at least what it is right now. We'll see. But I think that's going to be a pretty big thing for me, and hopefully this year. And I guess just more collaborations. I think also in the collaborations, I'm trying to pull more acoustic elements into the collaborations. So, you know, I'm not exactly doing like the electro house type of tracks anymore. Doing more experimental electroacoustic stuff with not only with the solo work, but with the collaborations as well. So
yeah, I mean, personally, that sounds absolutely awesome to me because I never play like electro, or I mean, I like dubstep and I like electro and all that, but I always end up playing just completely random electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, I think I always tell people that our music isn't really a club music, electronic music show or anything like that. It's more just electronic. It doesn't it doesn't really have a bound.
Definitely, that's my favorite too.
Yeah. So, what is your? Because I mean, I should have looked this up, but I didn't. So, what is your upcoming solo album called?
I'm not sure yet. For a while, I was thinking I'm gonna call it Breathe Music. That's still a working title. But I do know that it's going to be kind of a dreamy, folky, electronic type of sound.
I've heard of many like hybrids. Never heard that one.
Yeah, I googled folk electronic and I couldn't find much. I think maybe the closest it gets is Ellie Goulding, like her first album, where she has more of the acoustic guitar, but you hear some of those EDM elements in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I do want it to be, you know, as unique as I can, you know, like kind of my own thing. So
it's always I think the greatest thing in music is to be unique and be doing something that is you and not because someone else did it.
Exactly.
So I did put out a few sort of requests for fan questions. I only got one. So someone named Tatva G asked, "What got you into singing, and why did you follow through with it?" Suppose that means, why did you keep singing?
Well, I don't even remember when I started singing because I think I was so young. I don't even remember. I used to like watch Disney movies and I would sing along to the songs, and I don't know, I kept singing because I love it. I was recently just I got really sick these past like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And by the way, I apologize for making it inconvenient
No, that's all right.
for you. But I lost my voice for a bit, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do with myself. Like when I can't sing, I don't feel like quite like myself almost. Like it's so much a part of me that it's something that I just do. Like kind of like I said earlier in the interview, it's just something that I just have to do.
Yeah. I'd say it sort of helps you remember how important it is to you as well.
Yeah, definitely. It just feels, it kind of brings me into the moment. It just kind of brings me centered and yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. It could almost be like a meditative kind of
Yeah.
state.
Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much all the questions I've written down. They went all over the place, really.
Those are good questions.
I'm glad you think so. I just went all over the place in my mind, thinking, what could I ask? Yeah. So I guess thank you for talking to us and giving us your thoughts on music and telling us about your music.
And, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. It was very good talking to you, and I always love hearing from musicians who sort of aren't just going day to day doing the same thing they've always done, but actually trying to grow and progress.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you for talking to us, and yeah, we'll. I hope your solo release, your solo album goes well.